Welcome to Journey to 600. Today we're going to talk about a vestibular disorder called BPPV or Benign Paroxysmal Positional Vertigo. Throughout this video we'll just call it BPPV. So the agenda for today, we'll talk about the two assessments, which are Dix-Hallpike and Supine roll, and then we'll break down the treatment maneuvers, which are Epley, Semont, and barbecue roll. So starting off, the Dix-Hallpike, the reason you would do this test is for an anterior or posterior BPPV. You administer the test by turning the patient's head 45 degrees towards the affected ear in long sitting. The patient is quickly moved into supine with head extended 20 to 30 degrees off of the mat. A positive test for the anterior semicircular canal would be downbeating nystagmus, and posterior semicircular canal would be upbeating nystagmus. You will note how long the nystagmus lasts to determine if it's canalothesis or cupulostasis. Canalostasis will be less than 1 minute and cupulostasis will be greater than 1 minute. Next is the supine roll test. The indication will be horizontal BPPV, and you administer the test in supine, flex the neck 30 degrees, then quickly rotate the patient's head 90 degrees and watch for nystagmus. The positive test will be horizontal nystagmus. To determine what side is involved, you will have to note which way the nystagmus is going. So in the previous test, you were talking about upbeating versus downbeating, but in the supine roll test, you're going to refer to it as geotropic or apogeotropic. So geotropic nystagmus means the nystagmus is towards the ground, which will indicate canalostasis. So geotropic, towards the ground, G and G. And the side of involvement will be the side of the more intense nystagmus. Apogeotropic nystagmus means the nystagmus is away from the ground, so A and A. And that would indicate cupulostasis, and the side of involvement would be the side of less intense nystagmus. Now going on to treatment, this is Epley, and you would do this if it is anterior or posterior canalostasis. So the nystagmus was lasting less than 1 minute. So you would perform this test after you get a positive Dix-Hallpike. So the starting position is the end position of Dix-Hallpike. So they are in supine, rotate the head 45 degrees to the more symptomatic side and 30 degrees below the horizontal line. Then you will rotate the head 45 degrees to the other side. Roll to sideline on the uninvolved side. Then you will slowly sit up and return the head to neutral. You will remain sitting 3 to 4 minutes, then repeat until no symptoms are seen. Next, Semont. So this is another treatment, and you would perform this for anterior or posterior cupulostasis, which is that nystagmus that is lasting longer than 1 minute. You would administer this test in short sitting. The patient's head is rotated 45 degrees to the uninvolved side. Move the patient from sitting to sideline on the involved side for 1 minute. Then the patient is rapidly moved 180 degrees to the opposite sideline. Then the patient returns to sitting. So this test is performed after Dix-Hallpike modified sideline, which we didn't talk about today, but it's basically the same thing. It's just performed in sideline. Lastly is the barbecue roll, and this is for horizontal canalostasis. So you would perform this after a positive supine roll test. Administer the test in supine. Place the patient's head in 20 degrees of cervical flexion. After turning the head towards the involved ear, then the head is turned 270 degrees towards the unaffected side through a series of stepwise 90-degree turns before returning to sitting. Each head position is maintained at least 15 seconds or until the nystagmus and vertigo is resolved. Okay, practice question. A patient experiences upbeating nystagmus for 20 seconds when their head is turned to the right. Which of the following is the best treatment maneuver? A. Semont starting with a head to right. B. Barbecue roll starting with head to right. C. Epley starting with head to right. D. Dix-Hallpike starting with head to right. I'll give you a minute to answer. If you are not ready to go over the question, please pause. So going back through the question, highlighting what we need to know. Upbeating nystagmus means that it is a posterior canal, and then it says for 20 seconds. So this is canalicesis, not cupulo, because it is less than 1 minute. And the nystagmus is provoked when the head is turned to the right. So this test is describing Dix-Hallpike with the head turned to the right. So this is right side involvement, but it is not asking what examination item, is asking what is the best treatment maneuver. So rule out D because that is an examination. So what treats right-sided posterior canalistasis? So A, Semont is for that longer nystagmus lasting longer, and they will actually turn their head to the left, not to the involved side. Barbecue roll is for the horizontal canal, and we were talking about posterior. So C is correct, Epley with the head to the right, since this is right side involvement. C is the correct answer. Next practice question is a patient experiences geotropic nystagmus during the supine roll examination. His nystagmus is stronger when rotated to the right. Which of the following is the best treatment? A, Epley starting with head to left. B, Epley starting with head to right. C, barbecue roll starting with head to left. D, barbecue roll starting with head to right. I'll give you a minute to answer. If you're not ready to go over the answers, please pause. Highlighting what we need to know. So we are going to be looking for the best treatment, but what test is being performed? That is the supine roll examination, and the positive test was that it was geotropic nystagmus. So G means that the nystagmus was going towards the ground, and when it's towards the ground, that means that the side of involvement is the side of the stronger nystagmus. So nystagmus is stronger when rotated right, meaning this is right side involvement. So what is the treatment for right-sided horizontal canalistasis? And so basically the first part of the answers, we're going to be choosing between Epley and barbecue roll. So Epley is for anterior or posterior canal, so let's rule out A and B. So we are between C and D, but are we going to start with a head to the left or to the right? So you turn your head to the involved ear when performing the barbecue roll, so D is the correct answer because it's right involvement. So D, barbecue roll, starting with the head to the right is the correct answer. Last practice question. A patient experiences torsional downbeating nystagmus lasting 30 seconds when head is rotated to left during Dix-Hallpike. Which of the following is the likely diagnosis? A, left posterior cupulostasis. B, left anterior canalistasis. C, right posterior cupulostasis. D, right anterior canalistasis. I'll give you a minute to answer. If you're not ready to go over the answers, please pause. So again, we're going to highlight what we need to know, and this question is asking the likely diagnosis. So this one is tricky because the previous two questions were asking about treatment. So this one is just straight up asking what is the diagnosis, and so what is the diagnosis? We see torsional downbeating, which downbeating indicates anterior canal, and it is lasting 30 seconds. That means it is indicating canalistasis, not cupulo, because it is less than 1 minute. And what is the side of involvement? So it is positive when the head is rotated to the left during Dix-Hallpike. So that indicates left involvement. So putting that all together, we think that it is left anterior canalistasis. So B is the correct answer. For A, for it to be posterior canal, that would have to be upbeating, and for it to be cupulostasis, it would have to be greater than 1 minute. For C to be right, we would have to have the upbeating with the nystagmus lasting longer than 1 minute, as well as the Dix-Hallpike being positive when rotated to the right, not to the left. And for D to be right, Dix-Hallpike would have to be to the right. They would have the downbeating, and they would have it less than 30, or they would have it less than 1 minute. So that was probably the closest, just knowing if the head is rotated to the left or to the right. But all these questions were great, vestibular questions. I hope you did great. If not, rewatch the video and hit home those topics. So here's the summary of what we talked about today, talking about the two different exam items, Dix-Hallpike and supine roll, and then highlighting which semicircular canal is it, posterior, anterior, or horizontal, what nystagmus direction will they have, what is the type of BPPV, canal lysasis or cupulolysasis, and then what is the side of involvement, and this is really dependent on the side the head is rotated towards for Dix-Hallpike, but for supine roll, you're going to have to look at the side of more intense versus less intense nystagmus, and then the 3 treatment maneuvers we talked about today were Epley, Semont, and barbecue roll. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. See you next time on your journey to 600.